I, 26, female, joined this company when I was fresh out of college. I had finished my bachelor's and I knew I wanted to work further as an accounting student. The company I worked at was founded by a woman and seemed like a great place to start my career. When I joined the company, I was hoping to be able to fund my tuition for my master's course while I studied. My boss informed me that for me to be able to do that, I would have to keep my degree on hold for about a year or so, that I can work my way up the corporate ladder first and then go for it. Honestly, her advice was pretty solid, and that is what I did. For a whole year, I put my life on hold, and as I worked diligently, I got noticed by the management and was promoted. The work pressure increased almost in the blink of an eye, and while I was earning enough money for the sake of my master's degree, I did not have the time for it anymore. But I still managed. Important things require you to make time for them anyway. As I joined the master's course, I asked them to lower my workload a little so that I was able to balance both of them. Because of my request, a new member was added to my team temporarily. That was John. John and I were first on friendly terms, but by the time my degree was done and he had to leave my team, I definitely had feelings for him. His work ethics, the way he carried himself, etc., were all things that I liked in a man. All in all, John was perfect for me. I was not expecting him to like me, but he did. On a night of casual drinking with coworkers, I confessed my feelings for him in a drunken stupor, which led to us getting intimate that night. While that does not sound super healthy, the relationship that followed it was. John and I tried to keep everything under wraps because he did not want the people from work to know about our dating life as he wanted to keep everything private. I knew how sometimes my boss uses one partner to make the other partner feel bad. Like if A and B are a couple and for whatever reason A's work is showing a dip for the past week, my boss would immediately compare A to B and make sure A knows that they are not worthy of B if they keep giving a poor performance. I did not need that, so I did not want my relationship to be public either. While a few coworkers had their doubts, no one could know for sure, and I am happy that no one did. Keeping your relationship a secret for 3 years is not a joke, but I am glad I managed it. Right after our third anniversary, John proposed to me. I accepted his proposal. That was when he told me the truth. John was the son of the founder of the company. My boss was John's mom, and he did not want his mom to know about our dating because he was not sure how his mom would have reacted. After 3 years of seeing me getting promoted and praised, John decided that it would be all right if our relationship was made public. I was ecstatic. John asked me if I would be open to visiting his mom for lunch where he will introduce me to her as his fiancée. I was okay with it and I agreed. But things didn't go as expected. While I expected a little bit of hostility from my mother-in-law boss, I was not expecting the threats that she was giving me. The moment she noticed us walking together, her entire expression changed, and from the moment we sat down, mother-in-law did not hold her tongue back. She went off on me, telling me that she took me under her wing because she pitied the graduate, and now I'm trying to bite off more than I can chew. She implied that I was a gold digger and that I am after John's money. Just because she gave me a job here does not mean she will give the entire company to me, etc. Honestly, I had no intention like that, and the absurdity of the allegations made me laugh nervously. She did not take too well to it and stormed out of the restaurant, refusing to hear anything my fiancé and I had to say. The next day, I was greeted with a termination letter on my desk, claiming that I had stolen files from the company and I will be summoned to court because of it. The shock took a toll on me. I think I would have been fine had my job been the only one on the line, but it was also my integrity as a person. I told John about it, and John told me that I should sue her back. He said that while he is in a moral dilemma on who to support, as this is his mom, he does not think what is being done to me is fair, so the least I can do is sue back. And sue back is what I did. The files that my boss was suggesting I had stolen were the same files my boss only told me to take home and work on. My boss, being the old school person she is, does not believe in digital copies, and over the years, I have found that it is easier to take them home and do the digital work by myself instead of doing it at the office. When I was young, I read somewhere that I should always keep a receipt of everything like it would be used against me in court someday, and I meticulously kept every email that was related to those files. Sure enough, in those emails, my boss told me that I can take the files home and give them back on a date that was yet to come. With that as my proof, I sued her for termination without any valid ground, defamation, etc. Some of my colleagues heard about it and reached out to me. Turns out, whenever my boss found an issue with someone, she up and terminated them on grounds she made up. By the time I was done with the phone calls for the day, there were at least 5 more unlawful terminations, maybe even more. I asked them if they would be a part of the trial. They agreed, and off we went to court. My lawyer expertly managed the whole case, and the judge ruled in our favor. Because of the many unlawful terminations and the grounds mentioned, the company was put under investigation. While I worked for the finance department, where there was not many issues, the manufacturing department did. There were several OSHA violations in the work area, jeopardizing the work and safety of the workers. It also turned out that mother-in-law knew about it, but she did not want to spend money to do what was necessary. When these came to light, she got fined heavily, and even though she was not in jail, the fine put her in a significantly tight situation, and the shares of the company fell rapidly. The company is crippled for at least the next 5 years. I feel like I burned her entire legacy of 25 years into the ground with my trial. My fiance thinks I overdid this, but what do you guys think? I want my fiance, but somewhere I feel like he will let me go because of this. Update 1. Since a few of you were wondering how my relationship with John started, here it is. John was older than me for about a year, but it did not show at all. I honestly mistook him for an intern on the first day he joined. Due to that incident, I would say John and I became friends. When I learned that he was essentially going to help me with leading my team, I decided that the friendly terms might pay off well. Because previously, whenever I had had to work on something with someone else, I have always had the man step over my boundaries, step over my ideas and bits of advice, even if they were right. I had assumed it could have been because I never let them close to me in a friendly way, so I was hopeful things would be different when it came to John. And as luck would have it, things were different. John was this really sweet, polite, and friendly guy who gave me credit where credit was due. His work ethic was immaculate, and honestly, he is a good guy, which led to our thing. So anyone who was worried about us getting together where I coerced him, as mother-in-law suggested, it did not happen. My fiancé still wants to marry me, by the way. He just thinks the way the company suffered was a bit overkill. I do not know how it is overkill because this is what mother-in-law has been doing for a long time. And this is not new, but I guess I do not know. I try not to let these things bother me. Mother-in-law knows that I was the reason for her company being crippled, so she definitely does not support my relationship with John. John has been receiving calls from her begging him to not be with a vindictive witch like me. While I try to be confident in my relationship, I cannot help but feel a little insecure. What should I do? Update 2. You guys are right. I did what needed to be done, and mother-in-law got her share of karma. I did not dish it out to her personally. I only went against her for my unlawful termination. I suppose this thinking process frees me of the guilt I had been feeling. I'm currently in search of a new job because there is no way in hell I'm going back to that company again. As far as John and I are concerned, I do not know where we stand. He has been living with his mother for the past 1 week because she has been throwing a tantrum, begging him to return. Now that he has returned, I have not heard anything from him. I can only hope our relationship survives this, but honestly, if it does not, I cannot say I will be too surprised with it, as mother-in-law can be quite domineering. But here's to hope. Update 3. We're getting married tomorrow. I'm sorry for not being able to update you guys yet. Things have been quite hectic as I am trying to get everything ready for the wedding. John told mother-in-law that he chose me, and it is unfair that mother-in-law decided to destroy my career simply because of his choice. He hated that I was getting punished for his action and gave mother-in-law an ultimatum, which was either she blesses the wedding of her only son or be left with no son at all. I cannot say I'm upset about this. I know John cares a lot about mother-in-law, and I would like it if we were civil to one another, but I honestly do not see that happening owing to how I have destroyed her company for the next 5 years. Here's hoping that eventually she forgives me. But I'm not too worried about it. I'm marrying the man I love, and that is all that matters to me. NTA for doing what you did. You did what you had to do because that is how anyone reacts when they get terminated for no reason. I only hope that John and you have a good relationship because he seems like a great guy, but the position he is in can affect people quite negatively. He is being effectively forced to choose between his mother and partner, and that can be overwhelming for anyone in his shoes. You are not at fault, and you did not overdo anything. You did not overdo it. You did the logical step, and karma followed. Your mother-in-law is not a good boss, and she got what she had coming. Next story. I, 23, female, was basically brought up by my brother Lev, 31. He was always the one who took care of me and made sure I was safe, fed, and happy. My mom left us when I was 3 years old to escape my narcissistic, abusive, pathetic excuse of a father, Lev's stepdad. Then, 6 years later, my dad finally drinks and smokes enough to die of a stroke. Lev fights for custody of me, wins, and we move into a small apartment together. At this point, he's 18 and I'm 10. And Lev continues taking good care of me until things go to shit. He starts drinking, loses his job, some bad things happen, and I get taken away and put into a home. Lev and I stay in contact until I'm 14, when I find out that he's been in contact with our mom ever since she left, and nobody wanted to tell me because I was too young to understand. I'm furious and cut contact with him. Both he and my mom tried to contact me several times, but I refused to talk to them. I decided to contact him again when I was 19, and we've been fixing our relationship ever since. He stopped drinking and has a lovely wife and a baby on the way. I've been talking to my mom as well, and we're also in the process of fixing our relationship with a lot of therapy. I'm deeply grateful for everything Lev has done for me. I know how much he had on his shoulders back then, being so young himself and trying to raise me. Despite everything, he's truly my best friend. On the other side, I can't deny how much everything that happened messed me up. I'm still healing deep scars from my traumatic childhood. The other day, Lev and I were talking on Skype about my dad and a couple of other things that happened. He basically says that a-hole really ruined both our lives completely. Everything was his fault. I wanted to agree with him, but, as I said, I feel that some things were his fault as well. I must have had a weird look on my face because he asks, "What?" And I tell him, "Well, Dad really was an ass and he did some awful things, but some of the stuff you did really messed up my childhood too." His face goes blank and he stops talking. After a few seconds, he says, "I tried my best. It wasn't easy for me either." I tell him quickly that I know that and I'll never forget everything he did for me. He says, "But you still think I messed up your childhood?" And before I can answer, he hangs up the call. He hasn't answered any of my messages or calls. I don't know if what I said was over the line, but I feel like I need to speak my truth as well. Am I the asshole? Edit. Because so many people raise this point. I blame my parents way, way, way more than anyone else in this situation. Also, this truly wasn't about blaming anyone. It was simply a comment I intended to make in a conversation. A stupid, insensitive, and unnecessary comment, and not one was made to blame my brother for what happened. Edit 2. I just want to say thank you to you people who took the time to comment your constructive thoughts and criticisms. I wasn't expecting this much thoughtfulness or insight, and I appreciate the perspective most of you have had to offer. I'm really touched. A lot of people mentioned therapy. All of us, Lev, my mom, and I, are in therapy. We have separate therapists, but Lev and I go to the same office. I have a session once a month with Lev and a session once every 3 months with my mom. He has the same. I called Lev an hour ago and now I'm at his place. I apologized to him, told him I know how much he sacrificed for me to have a better life and that I see his pain and how much he struggled. He told me he understands my feelings too. He understands what he put me through. That I came into contact with a lot of things that no child should ever have to see because of certain choices. He intends to work on himself for the sake of our relationship and for his child. He obviously doesn't want history to repeat itself. I'm thinking of planning a surprise weekend trip with him to a mountain range close to where we live. We used to go rock climbing there, and it's a happy place for both of us. I want to have a good time with him there and maybe take the time to talk about a few things. Mostly, I just want to show him how sorry I am and how much I appreciate him. Thanks again to those who commented. You are lovely, intelligent people, and you really helped me a lot. Soft YTA. Faulting your brother is like blaming someone who finds you bleeding on the road and does the best they can. But they aren't a doctor. They didn't sign up for this, so maybe they actually break a rib giving you CPR or do some other damage while they try to save your life. Your brother was wholly unqualified, but he didn't just cut out of there when he turned 18. He did his best to save you. Next story. My brother-in-law, late 30s, has been calling me, early 30s female, princess and high maintenance ever since he went on a trip to a family wedding and we shared an Airbnb. He thinks I'm high maintenance because I'm into hair care and skin care. I don't travel with a chest full of products, but I have more than just shampoo, conditioner, and moisturizer. I have waist-length hair, and both my hair and skin is super dry. It's genetic, but I've finally gotten into a good routine where my skin isn't tight all the time and my hair doesn't look or feel like straw. Before we went away, he and my partner, early 30s male, went to pick up the wedding gift we were giving from the shop, and I asked my partner if he could pick me a couple of things up from the shop that I was running out of. My partner said yes, as it was next to where they were going, but my brother-in-law gave him a hard time for the amount of products I asked him to pick up. I like to keep backups of the items I use and go through them regularly as I can't stand going shopping. My partner told him to stop as it's not hurting anyone, and if it should bother anyone, it should be him as he has to live with it, but it doesn't bother him. My partner actually likes it and often compliments me on my soft skin and hair. I have told my brother-in-law that I don't like the name of princess or being called high maintenance. I don't see anything wrong in wanting to look after myself and taking pride in my appearance. My routine doesn't take preference over anything. If anything, it's the first thing I drop. I didn't do my routine when my son was born. I focused on him and his needs. Me and my needs came last to the needs of my family. My brother-in-law hasn't stopped with the nickname of princess. He even refers to me as princess on social media. My partner has told him to stop numerous times as well. As he's not listening to me or my brother, I've given him the nickname of twat, as I know he doesn't like being referred to as a twat. Brother-in-law isn't happy that I've taken to calling him twat. I know it's really childish and petty, but I feel like it's the only way he'll learn. My partner thinks it's funny that brother-in-law is getting annoyed as I'm just doing the same thing he has. AITA for being as petty as my brother-in-law and giving him a nickname that he doesn't like. NTA, you tried the more civil route, and it didn't help. So you're completely justified in giving him a taste of his own medicine. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.